I'm Eric Lipsy, and this is Galt University. Today, I'm here with Emily Moore of Lingos and Lingos Media. How are you today, Emily?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. And I'm so glad you're doing well, and we're always excited to have you on. As I was saying to you earlier, this is uh, almost like an anniversary because I think it's been about a year ago, and you were the very first one that we interviewed on social media.
That's amazing. Well, it's an honor to be number one, the first, and also an honor to return a year from our initial interview. So, congratulations on a year of doing this great work.
Thank you very much. Well, today we're not talking about social media. Today we're talking about another aspect, which is SEO, search engine optimization. So, first of all, if you can tell us a little bit more about what SEO is.
Yeah, so SEO is basically the most important aspect of your business. And it's interesting that we initially started talking about social media because it feeds into that. Like all of your digital assets lead, all roads lead to home, essentially. So
Mhm.
if I'm searching for a business, uh, hello. So if I'm searching for a business using keywords, or if I'm looking for specific services, the ideal is that you come up on the top. If you think about how you do business when you're searching for a product or service, typically you go to Google, which is the king of the internet. You
Mhm.
search in a term, and whoever pops up on the top three, you look at those companies.
Mhm.
Most people, I think, are pretty savvy these days. They might even scroll past the ads. I know for me, I do that. And I
Mhm.
do that out of respect for businesses because I don't want them to get charged for a click.
Right. Yeah, that,
But you scroll past that and then you look at people's reviews, right? And that's how you make your buying decision because you want to know who's showing up first and foremost, who's a viable business. And then you look at the trust factor on
mhm.
the reviews. How do I know that I can trust this business or service?
Mhm.
So that's really what SEO is. It's making sure that all of your digital assets are signaling Google that you're a trusted business. And then in turn, you're a trusted business to your ideal clients.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's very good. Now, what are some of the things that we can do just starting out? Because I know there's so many things that can be done to boost SEO. What are some of the basic things that someone who is completely clueless can start doing to help themselves out?
So one of the most important factors is to make sure that your website has an SSL, which is basically a secured website.
Okay.
Again, that really initiates trust. And it's a Google ranking factor. Google wants to know that when a buyer comes onto your website, that their information is not going to be in any sort of a threat.
Got you. So the SSL, when you use that, is that the security certificate that you get for your?
That is.
Okay,
Yeah,
and it.
and it's really surprising at how many times I will see that companies don't have an SSL. I mean, for us, that's just a standard when we're building a website. We always include that because we know it's an important ranking factor.
Mhm.
Another thing would just to be to make sure that your NAP, your name, your address, and phone number matches on all of your business listings. So your Google My Business, Yelp, Bing, all of those listings need to match.
Gotcha. And when you're saying match, it's the business name, it's the address, the phone number, the
Mm.
whole nine.
So what happens is that Google will scan your information and data, and if there's discrepancies, again, that question is going to come up. Is this a viable business? Where am I actually sending people? So the more that you can create a trusted environment that states all of this information matches,
Mhm.
Google then knows that you're a reliable resource as a business.
Okay, now that's also the difference in having an HTTP and HTTPS,
That's
correct?
correct.
That okay,
HTTPS is your secured website.
got you. Okay, yeah, because I know I've had some times where I've gone to people's site and that popped up saying this is not a secured, where they actually send a warning sign out. And if you're gonna warn somebody against going to this website, that's automatically gonna deter people because
That's right.
you automatically just don't feel safe.
Well, and it's the same thing really if you think about any business, right? And that's why I said social media even plays a role because when you go and search a company in their social media and if they don't have a presence, what does that say to you?
Right.
it tells you, and Google looks at all of those things.
Hmm.
So making sure that you're at least staying relevant on all of the social media channels. And even if that's doing a cross post, I mean, you don't have to, you can schedule things out and batch your content, but just making sure that there's signals going out to Google that, hey, I am a real business and I really want to service my clients.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, are there any do's and don'ts necessarily of the SEO world where you better definitely do this and you definitely better not do that?
So on the do's, I would make sure that you leverage your Google My Business,
Okay.
which is actually going to be transitioning to Google My Profiles very soon. They're going to be upgrading the environment. And what that is when you search for a business on the right-hand side, you'll see their advertisement with all of their reviews and business information. So the Google Maps, so you can actually go and see someone if they have a physical store or location. Making sure that that is up to date. Um, and honestly, that's probably one of the most powerful tools outside of your website. If it's optimized properly, it can actually funnel your entire business. It can work and it can get you leads just like a website.
Oh,
So even in that instance, you want to make sure the information that's on your website matches the information on your Google My Business profile. But I always recommend that make sure to ask for testimonials, and when people do give you those testimonials, make sure to respond to those reviews. Again, not only from a client facing, where if a client does go to research, they can see, hey, you know what, this person's taking the time to honor those that are, you know, writing reviews and testimonials about their business. But it also gives them, you know, a side of how is that business, how are they responding, what's their, you know, energy like, who am I going to give my business to? And Google likes to see that as well.
how crucial is it for those reviews as far as I know Google's looking at them, but do you find that people are also reading those reviews? Is it worth it to reach out to people who are happy customers to ask them to leave you a review?
It's extremely crucial.
Okay.
And let's just walk through a buying scenario. So I have 3 businesses in the Google Map, it's the map pack. So the first 3 companies that come up is your Google Map pack. So what am I going to do? I'm going to look at probably the top one, and I'm actually going to probably look at the reviews. How many reviews does this company have? And if I'll typically go for the one who has the most reviews, depending on that whole experience. So it's also a ranking factor. And I would put a lot of energy into that because, again, it really showcases, it's not just in your voice what that experience is going to be like, it's showing the world so many different opinions on how you are creating this really cool environment and what that's like to step in and work with you as a business owner.
That's great. Now, another question on that. The length of the review, does that matter as well? Like if somebody just go, oh, they're great, or they try to leave something really short, or if somebody really expressed, hey, I experienced this and this is how the company resolved my problem. I don't know how much detail, or does the detail matter?
Well, I would say the more emotion that's in the review, it's better, obviously. But one of the things that you can do is have your clients, if there's specific services that you really want to highlight that you offered them genuinely, to have them mention those services
Okay.
in the reviews, because that will help to, again, signal Google that you are offering these services and your clients are happy with them.
Now, are there other avenues? I know you've mentioned Google, and I know they're the #1 search
Yeah.
engine out there. Are there other avenues where maybe reviews should be left or anything like that? And I know you
Any
can't
place
just ask your customer to go post a bunch of reviews for you because they have their own things that they're doing, but are there other relevant platforms where those reviews can be seen?
Anywhere that you can get a review, you want to focus on that, because what happens is your listing, so your Facebook, Yelp, Bing, all of those listings that give you the option to get a review, they are also, they have a very high authority level with Google. And what that means is they have a lot of people visiting their site, and Google trusts them as a authority. So the more that you have those reviews, the more that it will show up when you search for your business name. You'll see all of those testimonials. And so you have to think about, yes, I mean, obviously Google is the number one place that people search, but there's other places. I mean, people do look for companies under Yelp. They do want to go and see, you know, what your BBB reviews are, right? So if they're going to those places, it's going to give them that same experience. Like, I can trust this business because when I'm searching for them in various places, I see that clients are happy with their services and I see the information matches.
Got it. So Google is not only checking their platform for your reviews, they're checking other platforms for your
Absolutely.
reviews as well. And the more you have, the more relevant you become.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's really interesting because there used to be just a thing where you just had to pay to get to the top. Now it seems to be more of a thing where how interactive people are with your business. Are they out there providing testimonials? Because I've gone onto some platforms and searched for certain businesses that they show they were even there, and the
Mhm.
businesses have been gone or closed for years. So there was
Right.
no business even there. So I could see why Google's looking for up-to-date, relevant things that are being said about that business, because it helps to even validate their search engine so that they're not providing you with things that may not even, or businesses that might not even exist anymore.
Exactly. Well, and they do care about business owners, and that's why Google offers a lot of free services like the GMB profiles.
Mhm.
But ultimately, what they care about is that when they are offering up a search term that's sending you to a business, that they're offering reliable information. Because if you think about that, let's say that Google is sending you wherever, and then you go and show up at this business and it's not even around anymore,
Right?
that's going to discredit the work that they're doing. So ultimately, they care about the user experience of who's searching for your business.
Yes, absolutely. And I can see the trouble behind that, because if it's a free service, people won't even
Right.
think to go out there to change
Exactly.
their thing because they were getting the service for free. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And then one other thing that I would say to not do, we've seen this hurt so many businesses, is just going and buying a bunch of backlinks from unreliable sources. Because if you have links that are not healthy,
Mhm.
links on your website and have questionable items, which a lot of times these link services will do just because they're trying to feed it as fast as they can, feed the beast. But the problem is that Google's like, you know what, we don't want to be in alignment with some of those links.
Correct.
They have nothing to do with your business. And sometimes they're quite embarrassing for business owners. I won't go into some of those topics of what they link to, but just make sure that whoever's working on your digital assets, or if it's you that's doing that, you are really thinking that through with, again, some of those top authority sites that we all know are trusted by Google, the Bings, the Yelps, all of BBB, that sort of thing. And I do highly recommend being a part of the BBB and being a part of the chambers, because they have automatic high authorities. So I've had a lot of people say, well, you know, is that even worth my time or money if I'm not going to all of the events? And it absolutely is, because it provides link juice to your website. But just make sure that you're not paying a cheap service to go and just push that out thinking that that's going to be a solution to get you ranked to the top, because actually it could get you blacklisted. So I absolutely don't recommend doing that. Some of the do's, again, just making sure that your name, address, and phone number match. And I know a lot of business owners will use their cell phone. I recommend not doing so,
Mm.
because you have to think in future terms as you grow as a business, right? And we have some of those things because we haven't used a business, not our cell phones, but you know, a lot of times we become really good friends and with the people we do business with, and they have our cell phone numbers. But at some point, right, you want to make sure that can be expansive, and going back and changing all of that information when you have a listing and thousands
Right.
of listings is going to be quite the task for you or anyone that you hire. So start with a business phone number. We actually often use different tracking numbers as well for different pages, just to kind of know where business is coming from, but always having that lead into the main line.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
really good
absolutely.
information. Now, you mentioned backlinks, and just so that people understand what backlinks are, maybe you could just explain that.
Yeah, so it could be a business listing like we were going over with Yelp. It could also be maybe you were highlighted in a article of some sort, and that business is linking back to your website because they highlighted you in that interview. In some ways, what you're doing with me right now can be a backlink to each other, right? We're talking about both of our businesses, and this could go on a website, and we can link each other's businesses back to that. So there's various ways of doing that. Some are follow, some are no follow, but they're a crucial part of getting your business to rank. And also another crucial part is keywords. So one of the things I would recommend not doing is keyword stuffing. I see that a lot of times people write and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to put as many keywords in this one section as possible. And Google doesn't like to see that. They want to see that you're actually doing your homework, and that you're not overselling people. It's like you're relative because you're mentioning that you do those things, and it signals Google that, okay, we can see, yes, they're offering SEO services, but they're not overdoing it and making it not seem like it's a natural form of communication.
Mhm.
Because we're not going to sit here and have a conversation and I'm going to be like, SEO services, IT services Denver, best SEO company in Denver, and that makes no sense, right? But if we're like talking about this and saying, okay, we offer SEO services in Denver, and we're one of the most sought out digital marketing and IT firms in Denver, okay, that's more of a natural language.
Right.
And so Google looks at that stuff. They scan your website to see how well you are positioning yourself with your content. And content, that's been a big part, right? It's been king for a long time, and it still is. It's a big ranking factor, making sure that you have enough content on your website that Google can scan, and that it is going to offer the buyer a unique experience where they want to journey through your website. They don't want to just click in and click out.
That makes perfect sense. And I'm really glad you brought up the writing piece, because I've seen some things out there where people are just offering a one sentence description of their business. And sometimes it's, what does that say to me? And if it's not saying anything to me and I'm a human being reading it, what happens when Google sends their spiders out to read these things and they're not, it's like, what is the algorithm picking up from your short description? And I get it, as small business owners, a lot of times we're pressed for time, but we still have to give Google something, right, to be able to read, to say, oh, okay, this is what they offer here. But I've just seen so many where the descriptions are so, even for people having their listings on our website, sometimes it's like, I've seen one that had like 3 words. And it's like, what can you do with that? It's like, do you want people to do business with you? Or
Right. Well, and that's the hardest part, is writing about yourself sometimes.
yeah.
Business owners tend to get in their head and rewrite, and then they just give up because they're like, I don't have the time, and I don't know if that sounds good, right?
Right.
But it's such a crucial part, because you have to step outside of yourself, and you have to say, okay, if I were to do business, like, I'm an expert, right?
Right.
But not everybody is. So how do you make that approachable? If you were to buy your exact service or product, what is it that you would want to hear to buy that? And that's usually the angle that you want to take in that experience.
Yeah, because there's a way to sound confident without sounding arrogant,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And approachable.
Right.
Approachable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that is just one thing that always gets me, because I remember you were saying before, like, there's a certain, I know a couple years ago when we talked about this, that you needed to at least have 200 words
Yeah.
uh, on there. Is that
Actually
still the
more
same?
like 750 now.
It's more like 750. All
Yeah.
right, people. So you hear that?
Yeah.
750 words. You have to take the time. And there's people out there.
Minimally, by the way, that's minimal.
That's minimal.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's people out there who will write. If you can't write for yourself, there's people who you can
Absolutely.
hire to write a description for your business for you. If
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, there's content writers. We have a whole content department, and it's one of our most important departments for really everything.
Mhm.
You think about even social media, right? It's how you position yourself and make it so people are, uh, think about how many things cross your eyes every single day, right?
Mhm.
You have to stop people in their tracks with your images, your graphics, your videos, and your content, right? So we have to think about things that are going to be a showstopper.
Okay. Yes, and then people, there used to be the saying, less is more, but
Right.
in this case, less is not more.
Right.
But yeah,
But
and
you
it
know
depends
what
on
though?
what you're doing too. But yeah.
There's a strategic way of doing that too. So let's say that you have a post that's doing really well.
Mhm.
Okay, well, how do I recreate that and respin the content in a way that it's fresh, but I know that that one posted really, really well. So there's smart ways of going about it, so it's not completely overwhelming with a business owner that's trying to manage everything. But um, gosh, through my journey, one of the biggest things that I have learned is I'm not an accountant, you know.
Right.
In fact, right before this, I was on the phone with a new CFO that we are interviewing, and like I realize that's not my strength, and that's okay, right?
Absolutely.
And so the art of delegation is also a beautiful thing sometimes when it's too overwhelming. So
Absolutely. And it can definitely be that for small business owners. Like I say, you're chief cook, bottle washer, you're doing all the things, and
yeah,
even switching those hats on and off is just
right.
so difficult to do. And certain personalities are just better at doing certain things. It's just the way that it is. And the more you try to do, the less effective you are at that thing
Right.
that that you should be doing. that
Well,
the that is
and
the
one thing I wanted to bring up too is on the SEO front, websites are such a foundation.
Mhm.
Websites are not just a pretty face. It should be very functional and beautiful at the same time, right? It offers an experience, but on the SEO front, it's all the back end of your website that is crucial to getting people, really getting Google to send people to you. And then there's a whole art of conversion that takes place with that beauty and the content and the experience that you provide and offer. Um, and like I have an example with a client where they came in and their digital assets were all messed up. The NAPS was off, so many links that were just not appropriate for the business, and redoing that. They were getting 153 calls a month. And then in 2 months after we relaunched their website, it was 1,100. So it can make a pretty massive difference. So one thing that you want to ask yourself is, when I set up my website, is that working for me like an employee would? And if that answer is no, then the SEO foundation needs to be looked at. The conversion foundation needs to be looked at as well.
And when you're saying the back end of your website, I know it probably seems to be the most self-explanatory thing
I don't know.
in the world, but just for somebody who may not understand what that means,
So
could you?
your meta descriptions, your SEO keyword tags, the content that's on your website, the links that are going in and out of your website, even your images should
Yeah.
have data in them that's telling Google that, hey, this is another way to indicate that this is a service that I'm offering. So the more connections you have, that's the back end piece of it, the better off you are to drive that traffic, the right traffic too. And let's just touch on for just a minute, knowing our ideal audience, right? And then niching down. So you can be in a really competitive field And using a keyword that's really broad might, yeah, you can do that in your long-term strategies, but having a more long-tailed keyword might be an efficient way. So like, for instance, if you're a fencing company, right? So fences near me might be a pretty broad, like that might be a really high, difficult keyword to rank for. But if you did chain linked fence, it's a longer keyword, right? So looking at that is a really important part of your overall SEO strategy as well. And yes, aiming high as a business owner is always great. Keep your eyes to the prize, but make sure to have a balance of those long tails and those short tail keywords in your focus.
Because you're using more of a sniper approach as opposed to a shotgun approach.
Exactly. Yes.
That makes perfect sense. But wow, you've dropped some serious nuggets here for people to be able to,
My pleasure.
run with and start heading towards success with their websites and things like that. So that's really great.
Yes.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come on with us today. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Because one thing for sure, I definitely want you to share. Well, I'll let you see if there's anything else you wanted to share first.
Honestly, it's just that we all have a point where we have to start, right?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be perfect right now. Just keep taking those steps. Maybe put it in your calendar. Like I'm actually thinking about doing a challenge of some sort. That would be fun, just to do like a Google My Business challenge where people come on and they learn how to take little steps each week to improve their presence. And really, that's what it is. Just structure that so you have these little steps to get yourself to that next point. And if you're in a place where you can hire someone, great, but just know that everything makes a huge difference in the big scheme of things. And as long as you are willing to, do the research and see, Google really puts a lot of information out there. I mean, we live in a world, right, where we have so much information at our fingertips, which is pretty cool. So if you really want to learn about it, you can. And just never give up. That's the biggest part of being a business owner, is just you keep going.
Awesome.
So.
Well, Emily, I know, like I said, we wear so many hats as small business owners, and a lot of times some of these things seem so overwhelming. And I know that people are going to be like, you know what? I see the importance of this now, but I still don't have time to do it. So please let the people know how they can get in touch with Lingos to hire you all to help them with their SEO journey. Yeah.
Absolutely. You can go to our website, which is www.lingos.com, lingows.com, which stands for Linux, Google, Windows. Or you can call us at 720-378-8970. But yeah, I would love to offer even a strategy call to go over digital assets and kind of show people what might be going on in the background of their SEO structure, just to give them a little understanding of what's needed. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today. We definitely appreciate it. Like I said, there was a lot of really good things there that I think is going to really help people to move forward in their business. And if they can't implement it themselves, hey, I'm telling you, if you can't implement it yourself, give Lingos a call and they'll get you on the right track.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me today. It was an honor.
Awesome. Until next time, this is Galt University.